Welkom bij een nieuwe aflevering van de Nederlandse Kubernetes podcast. De podcast over Kubernetes voor iedereen. Deze keer weer vanuit DevWorld in Amsterdam. Ik ben uw gastheer Ronald Kers en met mij is natuurlijk zoals altijd...
Hallo Ronald. Hoe is het Ronald?
Ja, heel goed. Zo zitten we weer even spontaan met iemand aan tafel hier zo. Wat superleuk.
Nou, we krijgen wat meer tijd, dus dan mogen we nog meer leuke mensen interviewen.
Dan pakken we die tijd ook gewoon. Dus without further ado, I would like to introduce our guest Pini Reznik. Welcome.
Thank you for inviting.
Yeah, our pleasure. And Pini, for the people who don't know you yet, can you please introduce yourself?
So, my name is Pini Reznik. I'm originally from Israel and living in Holland quite a few years now. I unfortunately don't speak Dutch well enough for a podcast.
No problem.
So, my background is from software configuration management. A long time ago, I finished my studies in '99, so I'm been around for a while. And last about 10 years I spent in cloud native ecosystem. So it is Kubernetes podcast, but we have been doing this before Kubernetes existed. We started from Docker from 2014. We actually organized the first European DockerCon, and we've been doing Mesos and other things before Kubernetes existed. And so last about 10 years I spent effectively building container solutions, which is consultancy doing cloud native transformations. But I left about a year ago, and now spending all my time on sustainability of IT. So the main goal is to help businesses to reduce carbon emissions.
Okay, cool. And how did you become, if I look at your shirt, a cloud native computing foundation ambassador? What's the story behind that?
So actually, I'm not right now. Which is, I have been,
it, right?
but I have to renew it, and for that I need to do quite a lot of effort, and that's not my focus right now. But the reason I have been an ambassador is because we have been doing traditionally a lot of community work, meetups, conferences, so the DockerCon, and been involved in Kubernetes conferences and meetups. We were running Software Circus, which is a large community with anything related to cloud native, so we were promoting cloud native. We've been, as container solutions, we were part of cloud native CNCF. Now we are also, as cinq, the new company, we are part of CNCF and GSF, Green Software Foundation.
Yeah.
Cool.
Nice.
If you become cloud native ambassador, what do you need to do? What do you have to do?
It's actually, so these days you actually need to be contributing significantly.
In the code or?
So I think today it's mostly community work. Okay. So it's mostly organizing meetups, promoting Kubernetes, giving talks, organizing events. The ambassador program is not really about contributing to code. That's the contributors. It's mostly contributing to promoting all the concepts. But you really need to be committed to doing it, like running the meetups, and not just like I did, just got the. We have been doing quite a lot of community work.
So you're still proud of it?
I am proud of it. Yes, I am. I am proud of it. I think the reason I'm proud of it is because CNCF is an amazing community. It's the best community. I think the main reason Docker didn't become what Kubernetes became, because they didn't build such a successful community. Because they remained open, the opposite of open, closed.
Yeah.
And when Kubernetes appeared, there were all these wars between Mesos, Kubernetes, and other schedulers. So we were actually there when it all happened. And the mistake Kubernetes did at that point, the mistake Docker did at that point was to try to hold all the cards.
Yeah.
And to maintain control over the Docker environment and open source project, the Moby Docker thing, and they tried to build their own scheduler, and eventually the only reason Kubernetes and CNCF won because they were open and inclusive. And that's how we want it to be.
Yeah.
Well, that's really important, open and inclusive. That's also how we want to
approach this podcast.
Yeah.
And I think inclusive is, there are all kind of meanings to inclusive, but
Sure.
In this kind of technology community, it's about giving people. There's a lot of conflicting interests. A lot of companies, like different clouds, they compete on customers.
Yeah.
So how you create an environment where they all contribute and all welcome,
Sure.
while still competing over same business.
Yeah.
And that's the trick that CNCF did very well, and Kubernetes is a community.
Yeah.
Totally agree. So what was your first version you worked with, Kubernetes-wise?
Mesos.
That's before, yeah.
Yes, because when we started in 2014, there was no Kubernetes,
There was
right?
no Kubernetes, right?
And it took quite a while. It started about 16 or 15 or 16, and then it became production ready a year or 2 years later. So in the first about 3 years of our work, there was no Kubernetes. So the only scheduler you could use, which was production ready, the only one that was actually meaningfully production ready was Mesos. Which is also unfortunate that they didn't.
Yeah. Why did Kubernetes win then and not Mesosphere?
It's the same story as Docker. Actually, there's a bit extra. Building extensions on Mesos was terribly difficult. And there was no good way. There was these frameworks and stuff, and it was just impossible. And then Kubernetes was very open and easy.
Difficult.
Not as difficult. To a certain extent, you're right, but I mean, it's not as difficult because in Mesos frameworks were actually applications in Java mostly or something else, and then you had to actually write full application, integrate with Mesos, and then Mesos community was very tightly controlled by Mesosphere and founders.
Yeah.
So Kubernetes was way more inclusive, way more open, much easier to contribute to. Although all kind of new features that you find today, they appeared much later, right? So,
Of course.
yeah.
And so I always, Kubernetes has ook technical depth and has also this old software in there already.
There is, for sure.
Yeah.
Okay. And now you're talking about sustainability. How does Kubernetes contribute to that sustainability costs?
So, yeah, I mean, we all know now there's no argument that sustainability, what climate change is not an invention, right? It's a real thing.
Yeah.
And although in some countries it became some sort of political issue, and then there's some weird argument that we know that scientifically it's correct. So, and we also know that IT contributing significantly to the emissions. So today it's multiple percentage points of the global emissions, and if we do nothing, it will get by 2040 up to 14%. So how Kubernetes specifically contributes, not particularly Kubernetes, but Kubernetes is a very good representative, is that it sort of democratizes infrastructure and large-scale systems. And it contributes to larger scale, creation of larger scale systems, and it is so much easier to add more hardware, to add more compute, more memory, more resources, and people just do it just because they sacrifice hardware and sustainability for speed of delivery. I mean, half of the talks here are agile talks, right? So the agility, the speed of delivery of value to a customer is a key element. And every time we were working as consultants at a customer, they would always say, forget about cost, forget about number of servers, right? And even the cloud cost is marginal compared to speed of delivery of value to the customer and competition. So it creates a lot of waste. Yeah, and waste is emissions.
Very right. Yeah, because in a previous episode we had a guest from Ortec Finance. I don't know if you know about them.
Very well. What's his name? I know this.
After Ortec Finance, I don't know.
I'm ashamed of that. I don't know, recall his name at the
I
moment.
spoke to the person who is responsible for sustainability.
We talk about the same person, but we don't...
I'm sure.
If it comes up, it doesn't matter. But he also told in his talk that the footprint of the data centers currently is even bigger than the whole aerospace industry. And if you think about that, it is really an insane way of using resources, and it's only getting bigger and bigger and bigger. So there have to be a smarter way to look at sustainability.
Yeah.
And because we had that transition to the cloud, and the cloud you can really get really easy hardware.
Yeah.
We don't have to drive to the data center and put the hardware manually in. So if we spin something up, we spin something up. It's like 5 minutes. Does that that's an opposite for sustainability?
So, I mean, yes and no, right? There are positives to cloud, because when you centralize things, then you can optimize, right? And they do optimize. They use greener energy. They use greener servers because the emissions, they're coming mostly from two elements, right? Without going too much in detail, it's from energy consumption and from embodied carbon. So the actual devices, the physical service. Yeah. So how much energy you actually use during production of that server. So when you use a server, if you buy traditional servers for your data center and you run your data center, you have cooling systems and all this stuff. Same as generally we know that the public clouds are much more efficient. They are also much more efficient in sustainability. All three, especially Azure, invested enormously in sustainability. Amazon, they have their own power plants, solar and wind power plants. So they are investing a lot. In this sense, they do contribute positively. On the other side, yes, it's too easy. And when it's too easy, then people do more of it.
Yeah, of course. Because even with auto scaling I just also said to the customer, put it a bit bigger because it's not that expensive. Auto not expensive. It's still expensive, but
the question is still why there is only on average 15% of hardware actually utilized.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's still a question. It's not like we are not saying don't spend, don't start servers, don't create applications. Mm-hmm. Just be reasonable. And in the past we were trying to squeeze the application in a certain memory size and certain compute size. And now no one cares because it's too cheap.
What was the quote from Bill Gates in the past?
460
kilobytes. An application doesn't need to be bigger than that. That should be enough.
So example, from a personal example, my first job after university was in a company called Checkpoint, which is a security firewalls company. So they effectively built the first firewall in the world. And when they built the first version, they insisted to put it on a single diskette. Yeah. Insisted. It was super critical. So I joined much later, but this was super important for them because this way it's efficient. It will run in any environment. It's not just about squeezing in diskette. Who cares, right? But it's because efficiency mattered. Efficiency matters, yes. Because of cost. And now the cost is cheaper, so that's the flip side of it. Because it's cheap, we use too much of it. But that's going to change.
Yeah.
That's going. Yeah. Where is it going there?
So not that the cost of cloud will change, but the cost of emitting will change. So we don't know exactly what's the structure, but there's all government programs, the new Green Deal, European Green Deal, the Fit for 55 program for all kind of regulations.
There aren't any farmers near, right?
There are no farmers, yeah. But it's obviously not just about that, right? Sure. So IT contributing significantly, but EU decided that by 2030, 55% of emissions should be reduced compared to the peak. We are below peak, so there is another 35% to go in the next 6 years.
Yeah.
And as we go, so there's already demand for reporting, not particularly for IT companies, for everyone, including IT. So obviously reporting is only first step because you need to put the measurement in place so you can optimize.
Yeah.
So there will be a very hard push from the government to reduce emissions 35% across the board, including IT.
Yeah.
Right? And if you don't, then there will be fines and taxes and other things.
Yeah.
So it will be as cheap as now to use compute in the cloud if it's green, but it will be very expensive to be not green.
Yeah.
I hope so.
Yeah, well, that's what, taking back to the Ortec example,
Yeah.
that they run their workloads on the different locations based on sustainability.
Yes.
Green power.
And that's a very good example because they're and I happen to know about Ortec Finance and their setup. They have very particular way of doing things because of nature of the application. It's batch processing.
Yeah.
And
It's easier. It's not a website or not.
Exactly.
Not.
So there is no 24/7 demand, so you can schedule easily. You don't need to reserve the capacity in different places. So,
But they're using a lot of capacity. It's not small. It's not. They're
True.
using 400 processors. It's.
but they can schedule anywhere.
Yep.
Once they start, they can even schedule parts here and parts there.
That's for an hour. And
So they can schedule like Norway or Iceland, where the energy is greener. But it's first, when you do that, you understand that you are using the green capacity in that place. And if too many people are going to do that, then Iceland will need to complement their capacity with something else, which is not going to be green.
No.
Right? It's also, in many cases, when you need 24/7 and you need the capacity reserved and you do follow the sun, you often will reserve the capacity in 3 different locations, and then you have embodied carbon sitting in 3 different locations, and actually you're making it worse.
Yeah.
Right? Because embodied carbon is often higher than actual electricity consumption. So there was a really, really good talk today. It wasn't like a conference talk, it was in ING booth.
Yeah.
They're doing this amazing research. This is not the first time I see something similar, but basically they were doing profiling of the code. So basically running a same function in different algorithms, and then generating number of joules that this application produces, and then based on that you can decide which piece of code is greener. Now, this is not the first thing you would do, right? Not the first thing you would do, because the first thing you would do is to say, let's go from 15% utilization on average anywhere higher than that, right?
Yeah.
That is the real thing. Mm-hmm. Now, not going spot instances to reduce cost, but actually utilizing existing hardware to about 80% is optimal for energy consumption.
Yeah. What's going to happen? We'll write code, use AI to produce greener code, and then the AI is costing more than the greener code. It's going to happen because it's going to be a greener badge.
And it will do a lot of emissions.
That's one way of thinking it.
But the thing is that what we measure, in CI/CD, what do we measure? Right? It's performance and stability.
Yeah.
Right? Not emissions.
No.
So what are we going to get? What we measure, we get what we measure.
Sure, yeah.
It's a great thing to think about, how to measure the emissions of your code.
And you have to. So all the tools, and there's a bunch of different tools doing profiling or monitoring or data collection of different sorts.
Sure.
It's unfortunately, it is still, for example, with public clouds, it's very difficult to get the right information. Because although most servers today, they would have the chips on the motherboard to actually give you the energy consumption per thread, right?
Yeah.
But if you're on public cloud, you don't have access to this hardware, right? So what you can do, what we are trying to do, is to basically sort of measure how much resources you are using. Like, how long did you use this thread? And then you sort of say, I'm running on this server, and this CPU, this thread generates so much joules per whatever.
Can you make an average?
Yeah.
The Cube cost is doing that also, but then in the form of costs.
Right, there is a tool called Kepler for OpenShift, which is doing also similar things.
Yeah, Kepler, we know that.
So there is quite a lot of new investment in this kind of tools. And also there is massive pressure on the cloud providers to generate this data. Because right now what they say is basically consumption per month, and based on consumption there's sort of average emissions, and that's what you get once a month.
Yeah, Microsoft did a while back, made a step in the right direction, right? To give you more insights on your usage, more specific. You've seen it.
No,
I haven't seen it yet.
Implemented.
Yeah.
So that's KubeCost in Microsoft. So they embedded the open cost. Open cost is their open part into Azure cost device. So you can, if you turn it on, it's still in preview, by the way. If you turn it on, you can see the cost per namespace in your Kubernetes cluster. And that's awesome, because if you have a Kubernetes cluster, and that's just for costs, that has several customers on it, you want to see how much cost a namespace does. But
what I would like to see is, in addition to this, is also, because I was talking to one of the vendors here with database, and they're showing so many servers with competitive tools, so many servers with our tool, and that's the cost reduction. What I also want to see is emissions reduction.
Sure. Yeah. Would be nice
because
to do.
And when you talk about cost reduction, sometimes it correlates to emissions reduction, but not always. No. But the other way around, it is to much higher extent. So when you do reduce emissions, you also reduce costs, at least to a certain point.
Yeah.
It's all because those are the easier things to do. Just stop using unneeded stuff.
Yeah, that's everybody wants that, but nobody wants to invest the time. It's lots of money.
But this is the problem. So that's why the incentives have to change. So it will be very expensive not to save emissions.
So
raise the gas prices, so you need to buy an electric car.
I mean, just a couple of weeks ago, Elon Musk tweeted it's all about carbon tax.
Yeah.
He's not the first one to suggest this. This is an obvious thing to do. There's obviously economical implications on global scale for this kind of things. But effectively, we are subsidizing fossil fuels. I mean, €2 per liter for petrol.
Yeah.
It ignores all the damage that fossil fuels do to the environment.
Yeah.
Right?
But I don't want to go into that, because electric vehicles are also not good for the environment. And the best way is waterstof. It's at the moment.
So hydrogen is problematic because it's very expensive.
Yeah, you cannot store it properly. But that's.
And electric cars, everyone understands that batteries are problematic because they are.
And it's also limited, because lithium and nickel.
It is true, but it's intermediate steps. So in evolution, so if you read Darwin, and in evolution, it doesn't say there's just sort of jump from legs to wings or something, right? It has to be a series of beneficial steps. Electric car is not final step, it's a beneficial intermediate step. And I have my first electric car since a couple of months ago, and it is just better.
You're more petrol. I'm a petrol guy, so I don't want to go into that. So back to the topic. We always have a final question.
Yes.
And
it's the others is
Ronald.
Okay. Our final question is always on where do you see the future of Kubernetes, and it can be as broad as possible. So if I put a crystal ball on the table, and maybe next time we'll take a crystal ball with us, but what would you like to see happening in the future?
I think there are two elements I would consider as key elements for change these days, AI and sustainability. So first, I would really want I actually overheard you talking to one of the previous speakers, and it was about reducing the cost of the adoption cost, right? The entry barrier.
Yeah.
You need to hide this whole complexity from normal people, and I think AI can do that, right? So we were saying the talks about generating code using AI. So basically, it doesn't mean there is no underlying complexity. It's just the Daniel Gebler from Picnic, he was talking about basically giving people who are not coders possibility to code, not on the same level, but good enough to generate value. So I think something similar should happen with Kubernetes. It's too complex, right? There's the CNCF matrix, like the landscape. It's just, I'm scaring people with it for like years now, yeah? It got out of hand, right?
Yeah.
So it has to be, this complexity should go away, and I think AI can hide this complexity by putting some stuff on top of that.
Yeah.
But we cannot ignore the sustainability. And I'm not saying because it's my business, but because first it's, we need to save the planet, right? But Kubernetes and tools like Kubernetes that easily give us access to more resources, they are those who are responsible for climate change to a large extent. And we have to find ways to optimize and push people to use less stuff.
Yes. Yeah.
And Kubernetes is absolutely essential that you will be, we need to create mechanisms to push people to reduce waste. It's just not happening in Kubernetes right now.
Well,
I think I see an IPO for a great company to build some software in Kubernetes to reduce to get a
sustainability numbers.
Some of the business can.
There are investments. All large enterprises, mostly IT, SAP and Microsoft and and Azure and everyone investing literally billions in this. So, and I am aware that most people are still not totally invested in it. They sort of consider it as a nice thing to have. And in next year or two, it absolutely has to change because we're already too late and it's time to start not doing what we're doing now.
Okay. Well, Pini, thank you very much for taking your time and come sit with us. So out of the blue, we ask you. So thank you very much. And
Ja, dankjewel Ronald.
Ja, bedankt wel.
Like en subscribe maar weer, hè? Dat zeg ik altijd maar.
Precies.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Wait.
Taking a picture.
And also, we need to LinkedIn. I don't think you're in. Yeah. On my LinkedIn, yeah.
You absolutely cannot miss me. If you do Pini Reznik, there is no.
Well, what you said about development, developers.
He's good in names, but I'm really bad in names.
Oh yeah, actually, in Holland, no one can spell Pini.
No.
You would be amazed how many I'm having this game in Starbucks, right? I'm not spelling my name. And I had like at least 50 different variations on 4 letters name.
Awesome. We've got 60 common connections.
Yeah. But it was interesting what you say about developer, or about the last part. I didn't recall the exact sentence, but you said something about developers and AI that it's going to change. And if I'm not mistaken, yesterday or 2 days ago, the director of NVIDIA said developers software programming is not a job for the future. It's something in that line he said, because AI is going to replace a lot of jobs in the near future in the development.
I'll give you an example, right? So I have been writing quite a lot, wrote a book and blogging and stuff, and I'm not really good in actually writing.
The book.
Yes, it's
let's put it in the show notes.
Yeah.
So do it in the show notes.
I think the point is that writing is, so I have some ideas, right? I can express myself, right? But actually writing proper English, that is flowing, and it's not that easy, right? So then I used in the past a lot of ghostwriters. I don't need anymore.
No.
Right? So I think the point here is that it gives me access to new capabilities, right? It means that I can write and many other people can write that couldn't in the past. And I think similar thing is going to happen with coding. A lot more people will be able to express themselves on a computer. It's not going to replace coding. It's going to emphasize coding.
I've got that problem with a lot of new people. They don't understand what a computer is, and that's
true.
Because
but do you need to understand?
They don't understand, because we come from a time that
Yeah, we needed
But
to.
most developers today don't understand. So I know I studied C, right?
Yeah,
And in C you have to.
This
yeah.
is the answer.
I did the salary.
Right.
Yeah,
So
sure, it's okay.
you need to understand, right? And I know how the, the physical thing works,
Yeah.
right? Most developers today already don't know.
And I think
You
that
need to know.
yeah.
I don't think so.
Now
It's a very philosophical argument that is going for like 15 years now.
no, I've got new people. They don't understand how that works, and the most easiest thing, like we've got, that's an example. We've got MySQL. It's running on Kubernetes. We've got an NFS server for storage.
Yeah.
We've got a locking of the MySQL because there's running 2 pods, and that's not possible because it's locking the storage. And he said, my MySQL is running on the storage, and that's
Like I understand it's annoying, but it doesn't really make any difference as a result. It's like
no, but it's not. It's a problem that he can't solve the problem because he doesn't see how the
I
path
understand.
is, and you need to see. I don't mind if you can code or not code, or that doesn't matter. I agree with you if you don't, but you need to see how the path is running. Otherwise, you
understand
can't
this.
build it.
But at the end, if you like a person driving a tractor doesn't understand agriculture. It's like you don't have to. You need certain number of people who are architects and who do understand in depth, but not everyone.
No, but they need to know a little bit. They need a driver's license to ride a car.
True, but no more than that.
No, but then they need
So
to
when
know
I
that.
studied for driving license, I had to, explain the components of the car. Not today.
No,
My son will open the
hood?
hood of the car, and his first time saying that. Yeah, so he doesn't have any idea what's going on.
yeah, but maybe I'm old.
And he's driving, and he has a
I
license.
do. We both know where you're coming from.
Yeah, I understand it.
Maybe I'm too technical, and I want to know everything because I'm a motorcycle driver. I know my motorcycle by heart. I know get with the knockers and everything.
It was the same for a car mechanic. Maybe 20 years ago, they needed to know how the engine was working, how all the nitty gritty of the engine. Now they only do plug in the USB port, and it is firmware, and you're done.
But I've got a lot of new people and are becoming a DevOps and yeah, I'm
Look, my first car, I was 18 years old. I had Fiat 127. It was 17 years old, right? You had to know. I mean, it wasn't much to know, right? It was, you could see the problem, right? But today, and for last 15 years, you open a car and you don't know what's going on there.
no.
I had a car, this Fiat, another Fiat Brava, many years after that. The computer was broken. Like, what the fuck?
I just want to drive,
Yeah.
It needs to do 85, and then it drives.
I don't I want to fix it. I don't want to fix it. But even if I did, there is no way. Anyway, it's
Yeah. Just my little frustration.
No, we understand.
So